under the full moon, the Night Hound made his offer clear. He told Damien J. Bourgeois that he had come to make him a deal he couldn't refuse. He then revealed the core of his offer. He would make it possible for Damien to meet his deceased daughter, Juliette J. Bourgeois. Damien, however, was not convinced as the Night Hound expected. He said that while he didn't know how a criminal could arrange a meeting with the dead, the Night Hound was wrong about one key fact. With a look of pained certainty, Damien declared that his daughter was... This news caught the Cure completely by surprise. His information from Cindy Windy had been clear. Juliette died in a carriage accident at a young age. He knew that in a situation this tense, Damien would have no reason to lie. Seeing the Night Hound's confusion, Damien let his broken sword fall to the ground. He confirmed that he was not lying and decided there was no longer any need for secrets, offering to tell his story. He began by reciting the Bourgeois family motto, "To be, not to be seen." He explained that the family's tragedy began with this belief, which was central to their succession trial. Damien described the unique trial of the Bourgeois family. To become the true successor, a candidate must have their family name and status hidden and go out into the world as a commoner. They must succeed using only their own skills, a tradition meant to prevent them from becoming spoiled nobles who relied on their family name. He explained that both he and his brother, Bartholomew, each had one daughter, and both girls were sent into society with their identities hidden to undergo this trial. He spoke of his own daughter, Juliette, with great pride, recalling his complete faith in her exceptional talent. Even after he had lost the fight for succession against his brother, he believed that Juliette would succeed and rise to the very top of the family. However, his expression turned to one of pain as he remembered how those hopes were cruelly broken. He recalled the day Juliette came to him in desperation. During her time as a commoner, she had fallen in love with a man of low birth named Romeo. She begged her father to help pay for Romeo's hospital bills, willing to give up her position as a successor to save the man she loved. Damien described Romeo as a man with nothing, no background, no talent, and no future. His only good quality was that he was kind and friendly to everyone, regardless of their status. Continuing his story on the moonlit balcony, Damien recalled his reaction to his daughter's plea. He confessed that at that moment he was filled with rage. He felt that this worthless man, Romeo, had ruined the daughter he had so carefully raised to restore his own honor. As Juliette continued to beg him to save Romeo's life, promising that the boy would soon die without treatment, Damien's anger only grew. In a cold fury, he ordered his men to drag Romeo away. Juliette screamed in protest, trying to stop them, but she was powerless as they hauled the sick man away. Damien recounted that it all came to a climax on a rainy day. In front of a weeping Juliette, Damien had Romeo brutally beaten, believing that such a harsh lesson would force her to come to her senses. Standing over them in the rain, Damien coldly told his daughter to stop her foolishness. He told her that because of her irresponsible actions, she had been stripped of her status as a successor and would now have to live her life as a failure. But Juliette did not break. Kneeling in the rain beside the man she loved, she looked up at her father and told him that Romeo was precious to her. He was the first person who had ever made her truly happy and seen her for who she was, not as a tool for her father's honor. With tears streaming down her face, her sadness turned to pure rage. She accused her father of cruelly destroying the one good thing in her life. Damien recalled his deep shock at seeing such an expression on his daughter's face for the first time, a look of genuine, deep-seated hatred. The most devastating part was realizing that all of that hatred was directed at him. In that moment of defiance, Juliette helped Romeo into a carriage and fled into the storm, leaving as if she never intended to return. Snapping out of his shock, Damien sent his mounted guards after them. And it was then, he explained, that the accident happened. In the chaos of the storm, the horses were startled by thunder. On the slippery, rain-slicked road, the carriage lost control and crashed violently. Damien revealed that his daughter survived the wreck without a single scratch. Romeo had shielded her with his own body, sacrificing his life to save hers. When Juliet awoke after the accident and learned that Romeo was dead, the shock was too much for her to bear. She fainted from the grief and, as Damien finished his tragic story, he revealed that she has been in a coma ever since, never waking.
Overwhelmed by sadness and desperation, Damien clutched his head in pain. He cried out that he had already tried everything he could think of to wake his daughter, from medicine and poisons to even holy power, but every single attempt had failed. With tears in his eyes, he confessed that he would give anything, his entire fortune, everything he had, just for the chance to see Juliet's smiling face one more time and offer her a sincere apology for what he had done. Seizing the moment of absolute weakness, the Night Hound stepped forward. He asked that if he could provide the means for Damien to apologize to his daughter, would Damien truly be willing to give everything he had to him? Seeing the tears streaming down the broken man's face, it was clear the offer had hit its mark. The scene shifts forward 1 month to a large candlelit room in Damien de Bourgeois' mansion. Damien stood with the Night Hound before a large bed, explaining that this was the place. On the bed, surrounded by a sea of white and pink flowers, lay a beautiful young woman with long white hair. Damien introduced her as his daughter, Juliet J. Bourgeois, as the Night Hound looked at the comatose young woman. He found her face to be strangely familiar. Just then, Damien turned to him with a questioning look. He asked why the Night Hound had brought a child with him, reminding him that their arrangement was supposed to be kept in the strictest confidence. From behind the Night Hound's cloak, a small girl in a witch's hat and robes timidly peeked out. It was Perry. The Night Hound placed a reassuring hand on Perry's head, causing her to blush. He explained to Damien that she was a very capable sorceress who was necessary to call forth Juliet's soul, and he personally vouched for her skills. Crouching down to Perry's level, the Night Hound encouraged her, telling her that her soul resonance ability was top level and that she just needed to show them what she could do without being afraid. Clutching a small wand, Perry nods confidently, replying that with the staff her uncle had given her, she could definitely do it. With her resolve strengthened, Perry stepped onto a stone pedestal at the foot of Juliet's bed, holding the staff given to her by her uncle. With both hands, she prepared to begin the soul-summoning ritual. As she focused, her eyes began to glow with an intense magical purple light. The candles surrounding the bed flared up with the same energy, and a powerful surge of magic erupted from her, filling the entire room with swirling purple light. The spell was a success. A glowing spiritual form began to appear from Juliet's comatose body. Damien watched in complete shock and awe as the spiritual energy took shape before him, whispering his daughter's name in disbelief. However, it was not just Juliet's soul that appeared. The spirit of Romeo materialized beside her. Damien watched, stunned, as his daughter's spirit gently rested her head against the shoulder of the man she loved. The sight of the two lovers reunited in spirit completely broke Damien. Overwhelmed by decades of guilt and regret, he collapsed to his knees. With tears streaming down his face, he confessed that he had been wrong about everything. He begged the spirits not to forgive him, calling himself a piece of trash for ignoring his daughter's feelings and trampling on their sincere love out of his own selfish pride. He told them they could resent him for the rest of his life, but through his sobs, he pleaded that Juliet still had to live, and that was why he needed to wake her up, no matter the cost. His emotional confession was suddenly interrupted by Perry. She pointed towards the two spirits and revealed a shocking truth to Damien. She explained that Juliet had the power to return to her body on her own. The reason she remained in a coma was because she was choosing not to return. Her soul had been purposefully searching for Romeo's so that they could perish together. Stunned into silence, Damien looked at the spiritual form of his daughter and asked her if what the little girl said was really true. The spirit of Juliet silently nods, confirming that she had indeed chosen to stay in a coma to be with Romeo. The truth shattered what little hope Damien had left, and he wept openly, his face a picture of utter despair and heartbreak. He was forced to confront the full weight of his actions. It was his fault that Juliet almost died, his fault that Romeo had to sacrifice himself to save her, and his fault that his daughter ultimately chose death to be reunited with the man she loved. He understood with painful clarity that he could not turn back time. No matter what he said, no matter how deeply he regretted his choices, nothing could change the tragic past. A new resolution settled over him. He realized that dwelling on his regret was useless. It was time to think about what he could do for him.
After now, in this final moment, his thoughts were spurred on by Perry, who warned that they were running out of time. She explained that while Juliet's soul had merely left her body, Romeo was truly dead and would soon have to pass on to the afterlife, as was the natural order. Looking at the two spirits, Damien finally knew what he had to do. This would be the last thing he could ever do for his daughter. As if reading his mind, the Night Hound's voice echoed, explaining that the bond between souls is eternal and does not change with the passage of time. The scene transformed into a spiritual wedding ceremony. An officiant, who appeared as a white-haired angelic version of Damien himself, began to speak to the spirits of the bride and groom. He asked Romeo and Juliet if they would accept their shared destiny, embrace each other's souls, and promise to love one another for eternity. In the spiritual space, the souls of Romeo and Juliet joined hands. Responding to the officiant's question, they both answered with a resounding and joyful yes. Their spiritual forms glowing brightly with happiness and tears of relief. Looking at each other with pure love, Juliet told Romeo she loved him, and he tearfully returned the sentiment. With a peaceful and accepting smile, the spiritual Damien, acting as both father and officiant, declared that the two were now officially husband and wife. With the ceremony complete, Juliet's spirit turned and flew into the arms of her real, grieving father, calling out to him one last time. As they embraced, she tearfully apologized to him, but also thanked him with all her heart for making a choice that was for her, a choice that would allow her to be happy. Damien held his daughter's spirit tightly, his entire body trembling with the overwhelming emotion of this final, precious moment. As the Night Hound, Perry, and the spirit of Romeo looked on, Damien gave his daughter his final blessing. He tearfully told her to be happy, insisting that she and Romeo must find happiness together in the afterlife. He then told his daughter that he loved her. As his words of love reached her, Juliet's spirit began to glow with a brilliant golden light and vanish peacefully. With her last breath, she returned his words, telling him she loved him too. Damien was left kneeling alone in the now quiet room, the echo of his daughter's voice calling for her dad, the only thing remaining. Back on the bed of flowers, the long ordeal was finally over. A serene, peaceful smile graced the face of Juliet's physical body as her soul, finally at peace and reunited with its love, departed from the world. This video ends. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel.